Okay, welcome back to turn one of MBT Scenario 1. This will probably be a fairly quick one here because there's nobody really spotted and not much combat to go around here. So a lot of things may go quick here. Just to recap, we've got our M60A3 TTSs all lined on the road over here. And we are facing the Soviets, who are coming in somewhere to the north, either here, F column, Q column, or this over here in the BB and C columns. Okay, so let's get started and let's see how this goes. Again, once again, I have this as a vassal log, so here's turn one. So spotting phase, there's no spotting because everybody's in the woods and everybody's unknown, so we'll just move on. Soviets will be having moves once we figure out when they're moving, whether they're first or second. And then for us, we need to pick our moves. We get 9 commands this time. Now, how did I get 9 commands? Real quick here. Over here, there's a command table, and it shows us a relationship between our grade, which we are seasoned, and the available commands, or available units. So we have 15 units, so we take a look here between seasoned and 10, that gives us 6, and then we look at 5 for 5 more for 15, and seasoned is 3. Add the 2 together, makes 9, gives us 9 commands for us to place. So we don't have to use all of them, but we're going to just put our move commands out there, and I'll put a few extra on there. What that means, for those of you who haven't played Panzer or MBT, is that by putting extra moves on there, those individual commands can be placed on individual units, as opposed to the stack or the group of units that are in that hex. So what I'm doing is I'm front loading these units that are going to be leading off, and there's actually 4 of them. There's 4 units in there, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my first platoon with 4 tanks. So each one of those has a move command, so they can potentially move independently of each other. And then my next one here contains my command. That's 101, 102, and then second platoon, which is 301, 302, 303 within there. Okay, so they're going to get 3 commands. So most likely 1 is going to be for the command unit, and then 2 others can be dispersed amongst the platoon itself. And the last 2 platoons, seeing as they're in the rear, they will just get 1 move command. That means they all need to move together on there as well. So that's all our commands. So now we see for the initiative. Now in this case, we're using our rules from Panzer Solo rules. So the Soviets are a seasoned unit, and actually let me go over here and pull this up. Reasons and hold on here a second. Where is my no, that's not it. Here it is, living rules. Okay, this is actually from Panzer here. And we look at the initiative. This is what I was talking about before. And we see season 50. What that means is that I need to roll 50 or higher for the Americans to get the initiative. So let's see what the roll is. 74. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that. I meant to hit this. So actually we rolled a 16, not what I just rolled. And the Soviet player is first. So that, at this point, it's not going to make much difference on this. It just means that the Soviets could fire first if they had something to shoot at, but they can't. There's nothing to shoot at. So we're going to actually move first, which is going to be good as we move through our phases here. So we're now down to the movement phase. There was no direct fire, either direct or indirect. So we go straight to our move phase, and we're going to move first. So here we go. I'm going to move my commands around, and they're going to move up the road as we mentioned before. And let me zoom out a little bit so we can see the movement. And they are going to head up here. Now they've got a road movement, if I highlight this, of 11. You can see the third number right on the unit is the number, the 11 right there. So that's how many they can move on the road itself. If they stay on the road, which they're going to do, they can move 11. So even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And they're going to make that turn up there. So they move all the way up to there. So they're pretty close to getting up there, but not quite. So the next unit's going to move and come along up here as well. We'll see him in a minute. There he is. He's going to go up like so. And he's going to join his friend and turn that way. Next one. It's going to come up here and kind of stay back just one hex. I don't want to keep them all together, particularly as we're most likely going to get contact this turn with the Soviets as they move down here. Gives me a little bit more flexibility, but they're still close. They're only 100 meters apart from there. So then we've got, that's our first platoon. Here comes our next platoon up the road. And here we are. This is actually going to be, oh, this is a command unit. Okay. So he's going to stop right, oops. Where'd he go? He's actually going to stop back here. So the command units actually stop back here, and you'll see why here in a moment. I'm going to set them up in kind of an overwatch position eventually here. So now we've got the second platoon unit, and they're now going to branch off and go up the road this direction, right to there. And here comes the next one, and they're going to spread out a little bit. So they're in a more vulnerable position. See, their position, you will see if I zoom this out, they've got a pretty wide open field of fire across here. So if the Soviets come down through here and are spotted, there's going to be some action going on there pretty quick. Same thing as if they come down this way, there'll be some action pretty quick. So they're going to spread out here a little bit as they're coming up the road. Now let me zoom in back here so you can see the movement again. So that was second platoon. Now we got to go with third platoon. And they're coming up and they're going to move right to there. They're following up. They're going to stay together because they're the support. They're kind of behind the woods here a little bit. There's woods right here, so I kept them together. And then now we've got the fourth platoon coming up, and they're actually going to go support first platoon up here. Okay, so this is our layout. Let me just zoom out just a little bit and scroll up so you can see what we're covering. So the plan is to actually have these guys move up in this direction, eventually landing somewhere in here to cover this in case the Soviets come down, as well as to be able to get into these woods over here to cover this bridge hex over there, as well as spread out a little bit so that they, don't get caught all together. Where these two platoons are going to try to take these. This actually has a lot of victory points. I think this is 300 over here. So these two platoons are going to go after that. And the Soviets are going to come straight down the road here and most likely go for that as well. Meanwhile, command back here can provide overwatch. It's a long distance overwatch, but it's still overwatch. They can cover this area here where I want them to get them to, and they can cover the bridges over here as well, if they just rotate the turret a little bit. Eventually, I think they're going to get up into this hex right here so that they can have a little bit better control. Okay, that's our movement. Let's get to the Soviets. So they're up here. So we're going to start with these units. We're starting with number 1 right here, this guy. And they're just going to move down the road. We know what types of tanks they are, so it's just the Soviet tanks, which have 14 in terms of their movement. So when they move across the road. So now they move to here. Now at this point, whoops, sorry for that. Well, jiggling around there. At this point, there's a potential of being spotted because they're moving, and they're moving as well, and they're within a range of only 9 hexes. Yeah, 9 hexes. So they're both moving. There's a good chance they're going to be spotted, and they are spotted. And then we have to see if they activate, are they real or faked, and go from there. So they are spotted, and we're going to do an activation check. Reroll 100. They're going to be fake. So that unit disappears. All right, great. Next unit comes down the road. And we'll just click it through. Here they come. They come into the woods, and they're spotted at that point. Activation check, 64. That's fake. Now, where you may be asking, where am I seeing this activation? That is this on our solo chart. 40 or less, they're activated. 41 or greater, they're fake. Okay. So they're fake as well. So they're going to come off. All right. So maybe we don't have anything. Maybe they're all coming up the other side. Who knows? We're going to see here. But the next unit's coming down the road. Or next hidden unit's coming down the road. So they stop here. And they're spotted. Activation check. 17. All right. So this activates 1 Soviet tank platoon. So the first one comes out here. So we've got 1 Soviet tank platoon here. And we're just going to spin them around. So like they're coming out of the road. Off of there. So they moved, let's see, they had a movement of 14, right? So they've moved from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to there. Now they could continue moving to here, but I think I'm going to have them stop because they've spotted us over here, and they've got some good cover. So they can kind of figure out what they're going to do. They're most likely going to shoot at us in the next turn, and we're going to shoot at them in the next turn. But this gives them some good cover. So we're going to halt them right there with that. Okay. So it stops there. So now we've got the next one. And now we're going to take a look here. And they can actually spot each other at this point, the moment that he starts to move. So once he starts to move, he's going to get spotted. And now we're going to do an activation check, and he's fake, so he disappears. And now we're going to go with number 5 right here, and he moves down. He spotted now, does an activation check, rolls a 2. He's real, so that becomes the 2nd Soviet platoon. And there. All right, so he's real. He's only moved 2 now at this point, so he can potentially. Now that he sees them, and he's got some cover up here, I think we're going to have him duck into here for now to figure out what he wants to do. Because remember, he's got a longer range gun than us. He can destroy any of our tanks from a longer range. So he can't fire now because he's moving. We just spotted each other. But I think what I'm going to have them do is duck up into the hills one by one, and then try to pivot. Then now they have to do bog check. We're playing with bog rules, which means once they enter a hex that has some bog potential, and that is specified over here under our terrain effects chart. Here we see there's bog, and we're in light woods right now. So it's a 1 to 20 to bog. So we're going to do a bog check for him. Rolls an 80, he's okay. So he can actually turn and face them. Next one, moves in, does the same thing, rolls a 31. He's okay, so he can turn. And then the next one, 202, moves in, rolls a 28. He's bogged down, which means he can't turn. He's stuck in that position. Doesn't mean forever, but he just can't make that final turn. And then the last one moves in, and he gets bogged as well. So we've got 2 units. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you can see them. 2 units facing us directly, and then 2 units facing that way. Right now it's not a big deal, but it can be a bigger deal later in the game. Okay, so we've got them moved. All right, now the next thing we want to do is start moving these guys over here. So I've got one of them moving. They're moving down the road. They cut through the town and then down the road to here. And then the other 2 wind up down there as well. Now they're all not spotted because there's woods and town in front of us and them. So there's no chance of them being spotted at all. So we still have to figure them out. And they're going to go after these hexes over here, these victory hexes over there. Okay, that's all the movement. Go to our adjust phase. So we're going to the turret adjust. And what this is going to do is we're going to start putting on, let me zoom in here, turrets, which is another new aspect of the game that we didn't have in Firefight. We can actually have positional turrets to point in different directions, and our hulls are in different directions. We did not have that. This is absolutely no concept of that in Firefight, which is interesting. The Firefight presumes that it has a kind of a 360 degree view on there, but when we get into more granular, more detailed game like this, this can come into play and have that aspect. So what I'm doing is just positioning all my tanks to point their guns in the direction of the enemy. Now we're also restricted on this in terms of how many hex sides we can turn. Like, we're assuming that they all pointed forward, not assuming, but they were all pointed forward, and then they all turned 1 hex side. You'll notice on the cards themselves, if you haven't played this before, there's a TT right here. It says TT2 right there. And that's the number of hex sides, 2 hex sides it can turn when it's positioning its turrets like this. Soviets have the same thing. They have 2 as well. So we're moving our turrets around, and I think that's all. And now we're doing this. Yeah, now we're doing the Soviets up here. You can see I'm adding the Soviet turrets around here. Now I'm using the bigger hex format here in Vassal, just so I can get a little bit more space and have a little bit more management over counters and such. And then we're going to come up here and we will do the same thing here. And that should be it for the turret adjustment. There we go. There's no suppression adjustment that needs to be done, and that's the end of turn 1. So let's zoom us back out, fit to width, and see where we are. So the Soviets, we've spotted them coming down the center road. We've got some hidden units coming down this west road, or east road, excuse me, and then this west road, we've spotted them, and they're in the woods over here. We've moved up, and most likely with turn 2, we're going to get some action going here pretty quickly. So with that, I will wind it up and say thanks for watching, and stay tuned for turn 2. Okay, welcome back to MBT. Turn number 2 of the first clash, and gonna show you some of the combat here and some of the neat little things you get with some of the details of the game. Because I think we are going to get combat. Well, I know we're going to get combat here. I shouldn't say, I don't think. Because if we look here, we've got some Soviet tanks here and American tanks down here within 9 hexes, which is short range, and they're spotted. So we're going to get some contact happening here with everything. So let's get to it. Our first thing, we're at turn 2, spotting phase. There's no change in spotting. Pretty much, what we've seen already. There's been no shooting. It's all movement, so everybody's just have moved spots, and I don't think anybody is not spotted who hasn't already, such as these guys up here in the woods. They're moving, so they will get they will continue to get their spot on there because it's +2 for the movement, -1 for the woods, and that'll keep them well within spotting range over there. And of course, all the U.S. units are excuse me, in the open there as well. The only ones that aren't will be these guys over here, our hidden units, but most likely they'll appear, if not this turn, the next turn as we move along. So going on to our command phase. Now here's one big thing here. I'm going to use smoke dischargers, which is an optional rule within the game, and each side actually has smoke dischargers. You can see for the US M60, here we go. It's signified by this right here, this D5. Oh, I can't highlight. Okay, never mind. D5 right here on the ammo means we've got smoke dischargers, and what that does is allows us to pop smoke around the individual tank that we're firing this from. So in other words, this tank right here, if I pop smoke with him, he will get smoke. But if I had a stack of tanks like these guys over here, only one will get the smoke. The rest of them would have to pop smoke themselves and try to get smoke around them. So what that will do is inhibit firing at us as a significant negative modifier. It's -5 on the firing chart for the smoke around us. If we fire into, out of, or through, it gets the -5. Now you may be saying, well, if you put smoke on there and you're going to get a -5 shooting out, you're not going to be able to hit anything. That's true. But this is where the real beauty of this comes in, because remember, the M60s are tank thermal sighted, which means they have thermal sights. That's what this bracketed T means over here. This is an important designation over here, which we really didn't have in Panzer, but it is in here in MBT with sighting, where we have L, S, O, I think R as well, and a few others. Basically tell us what type of sights we have. L is laser, S is stereo, T is thermal. So what that does is allows us to get some modifiers with our tanks. Now, with the thermal sights, what this does is allows us to see through smoke. Lasers cannot range through smoke. We have to use our stereo optic sights to see through the smoke, or to, I should say, sight. But also the thermal allows us a bonus to help reduce the smoke. And we'll see here, we'll basically negate the smoke that we're shooting out of using the stereo and the thermal sights. So that's a big plus, because if we look at the Soviet tanks over here, these T-72As, I'll go back on our cards, and T-72As, you'll notice they have laser, optical, and infrared, but they don't have thermal, meaning they cannot see through smoke. Their laser rangefinders or target acquisition is no good, and they have just optical, which is just the basic, look through a scope, and the IR is for nighttime infrared searchlights. So this gives us a big advantage over the T-62s or T-72s in terms of being able to hit the units. Now they can also pop smoke. You can see they've got a D5 over here as well, right here. But that's going to inhibit them because they're going to get the -5 modifier shooting out. So either way, it's going to be not good for them to shoot. So it's a big equalizer with the M60 tanks. We're going to use that here now. So let's get started. Smoke dischargers. So I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side, 204, 302, 204. to see if they can try to pop some smoke. They get a 7 and a 6. They don't. They've got to actually roll a 5 or less. That's what the 5 designation is. And they both fail. We're going to try 202 and 201. That's these guys right here. And they need 5 or less. Roll a 2, roll a 1. They're good. So they are going to get some smoke on there. So with Vassal, we've just get the regular smoke, but in this particular case, it's okay. I just put 2 smoke markers on there. Both tanks have smoke on them, which is good. And then we're going to move on to 303, which is this guy over here. If I can highlight him, there you go. He's going to try. He rolls a 5, so he's good. He's successful. I put great or less than. It should be less than or equal to 5 on here as well. So just realize that. We're going to try 302, which is the next one down the line. He gets smoke, so he gets it. And then 301, next one down the line. He rolls a 5. He's good. And then that's all the smoke I'm going to designate. Now you may say, why didn't I put smoke on these guys back here and these guys back here? Because they're kind of in the back of the line. With the solo mode, they're going to shoot at the closest tank they can see. So that's going to be, in this case, these guys for this tank here, or that group of tanks. And then for the ones way up to the north up here, right there, they are going to be designated to shoot most likely at these guys. It's 303, 302, 301. So that's why I didn't put smoke on them. Plus, they're going to get move commands, so that's going to give them a negative modifier as well. Same thing with our command tanks down here as well. So with that, we get 9 move commands. Let's place them. Oh, yeah, I did an Overwatch command down there. Just in case they move up, we can use them to target as a short halt and move. That's going to be shared. Both of these are going to be shared between them. So these two tanks are going to have a short halt. These 2 tanks are going to have a fire command. These 3 tanks are going to have a move command. They're going to be moving, and then we're going to have moves over here, 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 and here. Oops, here. There we go. So that should make 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I had a 9th one over there. Yeah, I put 2 over here. So 1 tank can move individually, and then 2 tanks can move and need to stay close together. Okay, so there's our commands. Actually, whoops, I did change that. I put 2 overwatches down here. So, all right. So now the next thing we're going to do is the initiative phase, and we're going to use the staggered initiative, which means we're going to designate 2 formations. At this level, it's going to be platoons, and we're going to have a dice roll to see who fires first. So we are going to pick, let's see what we're going to pick. We'll pick the 1st American platoon, which is going to be these guys up here, the 2 series, and the 1st Soviet platoon, which is going to be this platoon, the 1 series for the Soviets. Okay, so they're going to roll dice. Whoever gets higher, well, I should say, if I roll and get greater than 50, it's going to be Americans. If I roll less than that, it's going to be the Soviets. So we rolled 79. So we are going to fire first. So we were on the luck of the draw there, and we're going to take a shot with these 4 guys. Now it's only going to be these 4. And then what's going to happen is we are going to then have another dice roll, pick another platoon, most likely the Soviet 2nd, and probably our 2nd over here, and they'll dice off for the next round. But first, let's get some firing going over here. That's where we have our shots. So we are going to start with the 1st American platoon, of course, and we're going to take the 201. That's these 2 guys with smoke over them. They are going to fire at, or attempt to fire at 201. So first we got to do a command check on 201. 67, it's a short halt for them up here. All right, that's good to know. And now their range is 9, so the firing is going to be this. It's going to be 201 firing at 101. That should be 101, not 201. It's going to be short range, medium cover. That's the woods is medium cover. They are moving, so we're going to get a -2 with the moving, and then we're going to use the stereo sights because they're in the smoke. They can't use the laser sighting. And what does that mean? Let's look at our card real quick so you can see what this looks like. Over here, you can see these are different sights. We're going to use stereo. We're at a short range, so we're going to get a +1 modifier. All right. So that's going to be good because that's going to help us, because then when we use our thermal imaging on here, you'll notice thermal imaging over here through smoke. The first iteration of smoke gets a -1. Now, if I was shooting through another smoke hex, I would add a -2 to make -3. Okay, but there's only one, so it's +1 or -1 over here. So couple that with our stereo sights, it nets out to be 0, which is a nice thing. So then the only other thing is we had moving and we had medium cover. So it's actually going to be a -5 DRM for us to shoot. We're seasoned, but that doesn't make a difference. It's only if we're a veteran above or regulars or below that provides a modifier. So it'll be -5 at a short range. So that's going to put us, I think, on the 35, if I have that calculated right. Yeah, 35. I put 42, but it should be 35. Takes the shot. It rolls a 10. That's still well within the hit range. So it is a hit. That's good for us. Now here's where it differs quite a bit from Firefight, because now we've got to go into a series of actions to check exactly the geometry of the hit. Now with Firefight, it's just simple. You've got a number that's cross-referenced with the terrain, and it's either a kill or damage depending upon the dice roll and depending upon the cover. Here we've got a series of steps, which makes it tougher, makes it longer, but it's more detailed. If you like more detail, that's going to be important. So we hit, it's the front side location roll, so we're going to do our location roll on this, which is going to be a 5, which if we look at our hit chart, and I'm doing this once for people who may not have ever seen this with Panzer or anything, you'll see the location. If you look at front side, number 5 is a whole front. HF is whole front. So you can see I've got whole front. So now we cross-check with the penetration versus the armor on the two cards. So if we look back, the Americans at a short range, short, and the P line here, it's 96 for the penetration. If we look at the Soviets, for the defense at the hull front, kinetic energy, that's what we're firing. See, there's a lot of crunchy details to this, but it's very good if you like those kind of statistical numbers here. So we got hull front, and it's a 93. That's their armor. Now, a couple things to note on this that aren't going to come into play with this particular scenario is the fact that you've got the different types of armor here. You've got ERA, explosive reactive armor, and you've got composite armor that can modify this as well. Those only will work against chemical rounds. That'll be missiles, and it'll also be heat ammunition will affect this stuff. But with regular kinetic energy, regular DS shells, it's going to be this top line here. So anyways, it's going to be a 93. So it's right now is definitely penetrating by 3 points, but we're going to do this variable penetration roll where it's going to be where we roll 2 dice and apply a modifier. So let's roll our 2 dice first. We roll a 4 and a 3. So what does that mean? If we come back over here, down here, this is our variable penetration table. And if we cross-reference our P number for the Americans, which was 96 right here, with those 2 rolls we did, you notice we got a 3 and an 8, 3 and a 5. We add those 2 together, because there's 3 and 4. Add those 2 together, it makes 8. And because these are with parentheses, that means it's a negative number. That means it reduces our penetration by 8 points. So what that means is our final penetration is going to be 88 versus our armor 93, which means our shot ricocheted off and the tank is fine. So we missed, essentially. We hit them, but the shell did not penetrate for various reasons, and it bounced off. So that is basically a shot. The only thing that we're not seeing, which we'll see later on here, is if this actually penetrated and we had damage, and then we take damage. So you can see it's a little bit more, a few more steps, for calculating the firing. Here, there's one step. The actual checking of the armor penetration, that's the second step. Variable penetration is the third step, and then a damage step after that, and possibly a bailout if they're not totally destroyed. Okay. So that's a little bit of a difference between them. We only have really one step in the first firefight game. Here we've got 4 or 5 steps that we have to do each time, but can be useful if you like that detail and if you want to see true variability to these armored units. Okay, let's move on. So moving on to our next one is 202 down here. It's going to fire at 102. We're going to do our command check for the Soviets. They roll a 92, which is going to be a fire. So they actually get a fire command. So that means they're not moving. So this is now going to be short range, medium cover. We get our same stereo and thermal sights. We're seasoned, but this time they're not moving. So we're going to wind up with a -3, which makes it less than or equal to 56. And our roll on them is a 36, which is a hit again. And this time again, it's the same thing. It hits a front side location roll. Rolls a 9. This is actually going to be a whole side. This time we get a solid hit on the side, which the armor is much less. If you look back here at the card real quick, hull side armor is quite different on the T-72. The hull is 90. The hull front is 93. This is roughly a third as thick as the front side armor. So there's no variable penetration roll because we have a maximum variable penetration on here, which is, if I go back, at a 96, maximum is a ±15. That's not going to change anything because this is a 29. We're 3 times higher than what that is. So we go straight to the damage roll, which we didn't do on the last shot. And that is a 5, which is a knockout. Now, where do we see the damage? I'll show you that real quick, back on the Americans. So doing the AP damage, we cross-reference our ammunition type, APFSDS, with our dice roll, and you notice the range right here, 4 to 7. Our 5 falls within here. It's a KO. So that unit is knocked out. We're going to put a knockout on there, take off the command, and move on to our next one. So our next one is our 2 units over here, 203 and 204, which are going to be short halts. This is going to be a little bit different because they're going to have a few more modifiers that we'll see. So let's go and do our command check for the Soviets. Roll a 63. And they get a short halt as well. So they'll be firing back at us. So this is going to be short range again, medium cover. That doesn't change. They are moving, and there's thermal sights. We also have short halt on our side. I didn't put that in there. There should be another -2 because with their short halt, and I'll just point this out, there's this right here, SB, stabilization. Their stabilization is a 2, which means on their firing they will subtract 2 from a short halt. So instead of the normal 3 or 4, they will only be subtracting 2 from that. So in the end, it winds up, I think, being a little bit less here. Let me just double check this. Medium cover -2 or -3, -5, 0, and then -2. So that's actually -7. Ooh, uh-oh. I may have miscalculated over here. 7 down is actually it's 21. Okay, let's see what happens here. I think this is going to be a miss anyways. Oh, nope, I corrected myself. Ha! There we go, 28. So they roll an 87 anyway, so it's a miss. All right, so then we move on to 204. They're going to go against that last one, figure out what their command is. 49, they're going to have a move command. So they are going to have the same hit. It's a 28. And they roll a 32. That's going to be a miss anyways. All right, so there's no more fire commands for the Americans. So that ends our staggered initiative for this. Now, because the first initiative, the way I'm playing with the staggered initiative is the moves don't count as staggered. It'll be the opposite player. So we went first, so it'll be the Soviets that will move first, and then the Americans will move second. So, but first, we need to get to the Soviet firing. So we're going to go through the Soviet firing here real quick. So 101 over here, we're checking for their fire action. That's this guy, one of these guys over here. And he's going to fire at the nearest dangerous. And we roll for them. So they roll a 5, gets the odd one. So they're going to be firing at 203. So 101 here is firing at 203 here. These guys in the open without smoke. Short range. They're doing a short halt. Now they're a short halt 3. Go back over here. They're a short halt 3 right there. So they'll be minusing 3. Moving size. There's a size modifier for the Soviets. They do have laser and they're seasoned. So it's a 49 or less. They roll a 30. That's going to be a hit. It's a hit on the front. Location roll is a 2. So they hit on the front. Their penetration is 97. Our armor is only 48. There's no variable penetration roll. This is not good for our tanks. And the damage is a 7, which is a brew up. That's even worse because he'll be brewed up. And then the other one, 204, is now going to be suppressed. All right, so that's not good. We've lost one tank, and one tank is having some difficulties with the fact of his buddy has been blown up. So we'll go to the next Soviet tank, the T-72 over here, 203. Fire action, nearest dangerous, so he's going to go against 204. Same thing, 49 or less, rolls a 72, so he misses, so that's good. All right, so that takes care of these units firing up here. They've got their fires complete up here. There we go, we got them to move. Now we move over to our second platoon. That's these guys up here to see what they're going to do. Their command check is a 53 for 201. He's got a short halt, and he's checking the range. He's 21 away from us. That's going to change. I'm going to change that to an overwatch because he's too far away. He's got to be within medium range, and his range is only 20. To engage, he has to be within medium range. That's part of the solo rules. Next, we're doing 202. He gets a move command, and then we're going to go to 203. He's going to actually be hold down, dig in. And then we're going to go to 204, and he's going to get a move command. So they're all moving. So pretty much that's it for the firing phase. We're going to go straight into the moving phase and go right into the Soviets moving. So hidden units are going to move first. So that's these guys over here. I'm going to zoom over here. And he's going to go over and go through that victory hex. Now I'm going to change that hex, but I'm not going to give him the victory point for 2 reasons. 1, they only claim it after they've had it for a full turn, and then 2, we don't know if this is a real unit. So if he's a fake unit, that can't be claimed. If he's real, he can. And now we move on to number 7, and he is going to move down the road again, and he crosses the bridge. So if he winds up being a real unit, then he'll capture that hex. He's going to go up the road, and then I'm going to have him come up over here and kind of threaten our right flank, and he's going to go to there. Okay. And then we got number 8, which is going to go back in and claim this victory hex, possibly. It's going to do a bog check, and he bogs down. So he's not moving anymore. All right. So that's all for those, and they're not spotted because none of our units were able to see them move across there. We're going back to second platoon. Second platoon up here, we're going to move the 202, and they're going to move the highest victory point hex, which is going to be 2v7. That's this guy over here. And he is going to take the safest route. So I'm going to have him hug the hillside here a little bit. And see, he can't be seen. And he's going to come down here behind the woods and kind of take this kind of long route around here and potentially do 2 things. 1, either move out to go down here along the woods, or 2, set up an overwatch for any American units that move up. Okay. So moving on next, we have 204. And he's going to move the same thing. Highest victory hex is 2v7. He's going to go the fastest. So he's actually going to go down the road. He does a bog check to get out of the woods. He's going to move down the road this way. And he can only go to there because he's using his off-road movement. But he stays on the road, so he can potentially use the road, next time. Most likely not, because he's going to try to zigzag his way down here towards the bridge, most likely. Okay, next we go over to the Soviet 1st Platoon, which is down here, and we'll take 101, who's our short halt guy, and he's going to go over towards that hex. The highest VP hex is this, and he's going to go over, out, down, and over, and that's as far as he can go, because remember, he's got a short halt. So he can only go 1, 2, 3 hexes. It's half of his movement, which is going to be off-road, which is 7 divided by 2, rounded down as 3. Next, we are moving on to 101. He does the same thing, a little bit different as he moves out and around. And then the last one, he has his full movement point. He's going to move direct. He passes his bog check and then goes down and sits in that hex. Now I kept him stopped there. He could have gone for the other one up here, but he only had 1 more point. And by being in this gully, that's actually good for him because it's actually lower. His terrain elevation is -1 as opposed to being at level ground. So he's kind of hidden for the moment from the Americans. Again, another different feature from Firefight. Firefight has no concept of, no direct concept of gullies or advanced terrain features like I was just discussing. Okay, so that's going to be all for the Soviets. Now it's our American move, and we are going to start with 2nd Platoon. They're going to move up, and we're going to start them over here, and we're going to position them. I'm gonna move them and then discuss. I'm gonna position them over here. One of our guys here went into the gully itself, which means he's at a -1 level. That's going to allow him to potentially get up through these hexes here, and then pop out right on top of them, and hopefully, knock them out. Meanwhile, these 2 guys are going to position back here. Hopefully, they can pop some smoke and take on these guys right here. So that's 2nd Platoon. Now we go back to the 1st Platoon, and first thing we're going to do is have our suppressed guy just take a step backward. He can move 1 hex, but he is suppressed, so he's going to move back into the rough. That gives him a little bit of cover, and hopefully he can recover, in the next over the next couple of turns. Our brewed up guy, obviously, he is done. He's not going anywhere. And the other two tanks of our first platoon fired, so they're not moving. So now we're going over to third platoon, not second platoon, but third platoon over here, and get them moving. Now they're going to move up to try to position in the center of the board, right in this general area right here. I want them to kind of claim that area. That will give them the opportunity to set up some good firing arcs across here, from roughly here all the way across to about here, and then down the line. So it kind of will definitely go after these guys, prevent people coming down the road, potentially take on this guy over here once he starts moving, and be in a good position over there. So let's get them moving. So they're moving up there. And get rid of some of the smoke. Once you move, the smoke will disappear. Just doing some final positions. Now, the Overwatch guy is going to now take a shot at our guy who just moved. So he claims Overwatch, and he's going to do Overwatch fire on us right here. He's at medium range now. He's got a size modifier, moving, Overwatch, laser. So he needs basically a 50 or less to hit. He rolls a 22. Ouch, we may lose another. It's hit on the front location. It's hit right on the front hull. 86 to 48. There's no variable penetration roll. Yeah, this does not look good. Oh, he rolls a 1. Okay, let's take a look at that, because a 1 is no damage. It's the one saving grace to the whole thing, is no damage. It, for whatever reason, didn't penetrate, didn't pass through. But we still need to check for a bailout, which we need to roll again, D100, and if we get a 10 or less, they're going to bail out. Let's see. Nope, 25. So they're safe for now, but you know, they're in kind of a precarious position. We're going to have to definitely, you know, pop some smoke on this, you know, this next turn. Okay. Next. Where are we going here? Next guy is moving up, and he moves over to there, like so. He's going to position to try to discover who this guy is right here on the next turn. And then we've got our next guy, cleaning up some markers here. Also, too, the turrets, if you notice the turrets, I've taken them off because you do get a chance to move your turrets either in the turret adjustment or during the movement. I'm doing it here in the movement, and will not do it in the turret adjustment. So he moves up over here as well. Okay, now we're checking out some lines of sight. Now I could have taken a shot over here. It's a long shot. I probably should have, but we'll wait for them to get a little bit closer and move on from there. So now I've got some other movement with this platoon, which is the third platoon. Third platoon. And they move up over here to support them. So my 4 platoons have divided on this road. The first and what's this one? First and fourth, sorry, are over here. Second and third are going to the right. My command tanks are back here. I got to be careful to keep them in range, but I think next turn they're going to move up over there. Okay, so now we move along and we'll get to the adjustment phase. This will go quick. Any turret adjustments? I don't think so. Everybody was pointing in the right direction. And suppression adjustments, this is where this guy is going to reduce his suppression. And he does. And then we get our counter adjustments, which is just taking off smoke and the command markers and etc. over there. So it's the end of turn 2. Hopefully you're enjoying this. A little bit more extended on here to kind of do some comparisons with Firefight, particularly the combat. A lot more intricate to it, but once you get used to it, once you get using it and understand the steps to it, it really is not that hard. You've got some good charts over here that tell you everything that you can add, subtract, and then you're just comparing numbers across there. So if you're mathematically inclined, you'll probably like this. If you're not so, you may not, but you know, it's not for everybody. I grant you that. I do find it interesting and nice because you do get a lot more detail, like these M60s popping smoke and using thermal sights gives them quite the advantage, hopefully, that you've seen with this turn here. So we'll move along to turn 3 and 4 and see what happens. Right now, both sides have lost one tank. We do have a suppressed tank over here, but hopefully they'll cover this next turn, and hopefully we can knock out some more of the Soviets and claim some of these victory hexes, because that's the other thing, is they are claiming a lot of hexes so far. They've claimed 3 out of the 5 on here, so we're going to have to eventually move in there. So hopefully you enjoy. If you like this, please like us and comment and consider subscribing. Love to see more people on my channel and love to do these playthroughs for you. So we'll see you on the next one.